So there've been a lot of classes in tech school on how to augment reality and like programming classes, computer science classes, and so forth. There's never really been a class about it being an industry and how you could like be a designer. And I've got like 16 eager students, and like we're going to go in there for like a summer session of 13 weeks. And Layar is the sponsor of this course. Layar is like, and Art Center is very keen on this kind of trade school thing going on there, and they're very keen on corporate sponsors. So here we are, kind of like.
What? Are we corporate?
You're corporate, yeah, you're a corporate sponsor. You're an actual company, you're not a social network. So, if you see my class, if you see people from my class showing up, like, annoying California college kids who like are asking prying questions and know fuck all about anything, please be kind to them. Because I'll be sending them your way, and they're like going to be really very interested because you're sort of their sponsor, and the people are being held up to them as titans of a modern industry. So let me explain why I got into this. Well, I'm a science fiction writer who's got really a lot of interest in design, and I got very into design in 1989 when I was first asked by somebody who I'd never met and never understood why. It was the International Conference of Societies of Industrial Design was meeting in Nagoya, Japan. So I'm like sitting in Austin, Texas with my manual typewriter, which I had an Apple II at the time, typing out some kind of darling little short story. Like this piece of actual snail mail arrives. It says, "Dear Professor Sterling, would you please fly over to Nagoya, Japan, first class, all expenses paid, to hang out with our industrial design group?" And I'm like, fuck yeah, like, what the hell, I'm just sitting there eating tacos. So, I got on a plane and I flew to Nagoya, and it was the height of the boom, and the Japanese were richer than God. So I was on some panel, but this thing was just insane. And so I'm like up in the penthouse of this Japanese skyscraper drinking Japanese relabeled scotch with Tucker V. Meister, this industrial designer, and I'm like, "So, industrial design. I'm a science fiction writer. I know nothing about this. Why don't you tell me what's going on?" And he did tell me what was going on. And I said, "This motherfucker's radioactive. I've got people like know him and all his friends." And I did. I got very into design, and I started writing about it. And then eventually I became a design academic. And I got drafted by Art Center to be their visionary in residence, first visionary in residence. It was like an outreach thing that they did. If you're in design school now, it's very difficult to keep up with technology because there's just so much happening out in the field that like the faculty can't watch it. So they have like this habit of kind of drafting people in and kind of like trying to get ahead of the curve. So they've had 4 of us. I was visionary design, design visionary #1, and now I'm going back. So that's my job title. I'm like visionary in residence at Art Center. I'm the only repeat visionary in residence at Art Center because the other ones I just sort of squeezed them like an orange and threw them away. But I'm going back for more punishment. So that's just my job. I'm there for 13 weeks, and we're doing this course on augmented reality. And my victory condition here is that these students who will know practically nothing about AR will end up leaving knowing more about it really than anybody else. I think that's entirely possible because it's a young field. It's a very modern field, but it's small, and it's just now. Maybe it's like a year and a half that it's been an industry as opposed to just like weird ideas in computer science departments. And in another 18 months or so, it's just going to be too big to cover. It's too, it's the grab bag's too big, and there's going to be too many things going on to really sum up in a college course or even in a book. So my plan is to write a book. I write books. I'm teaching this, but I'm also trying to educate myself, and I'm like I want to commemorate this little moment, this historical moment for the augmented reality industry, because I've done that before. I did it when I wrote this book, Hacker Crackdown. It was one of the first books written about computer crime, WikiLeaks style stuff, political intervention. And it was a kind of snapshot of a social scene that was about to blow. It was really going to become a big deal, and now that world of hackers is gone. Now we've got cybercrime, cyber war, WikiLeaks, hacktivism. It's expanded in many directions that nobody could see, and so many directions you couldn't really sum it up in a single 80,000 word text. but I think I can do this, and I want to do it for AR. And why is AR of particular interest to me? Okay, you're not the greatest thing in the world yet. God only knows, what will become of your company or your industry, but my interest in what's going on in your field is very long. I wrote a series of stories many years ago that involved augmented reality. I didn't actually use the term augmented reality. They used the term computer-assisted perception. So there's like this young guy who's wandering through Europe, and he's an activist in computer-assisted perception. He's got like a head mount and goggles, and it's got like all this cool sort of late 20th century cyberpunk imaginary design in it. Like he's just looking through his things. He like has a pull down menu, and he like holds his hands out, and he's like pulling down kind of an urban augmentation of the things he's looking at. He's got like infrared. He's got telescopic sights. He's like scanning at people. People are walking around. They've got kind of Facebook profiles attached to their bodies that sort of float over their heads. It's a series of stories called the Chattanooga series. The titles were Deep Eddy, Bicycle Repairman, and Takla Makan. And in some way, they all involve this computer-assisted perception gimmick. 2 of those stories won Hugo Awards. I mean, none of my other stories won awards, but those 3 were like critics' darlings, even popular darlings for some reason. So, since that time, before AR existed, or was even like properly named and understood, I was really interested in it. And then to see it actually come out of the lab and become a real industry and sort of mix in people's lives and have an impact and really matter and kind of touch people, that like moves me, like moves me as a creative artist. It's like imagining a child and then having it, or imagining a child and having a nephew have a child. It's like, it's not my child, but it's like talking to, it's more like being the godfather of something or other. It's like you have this happy couple and you introduce them and they have a child. You somehow feel morally responsible in some odd way. And and that's how I feel about your cute little industry. To me, it can do nothing ugly, and there's something adorable about it. I don't care how many business models you destroy, how many other means of expression are sidelined. I don't care that cell phone providers are the most evil guys in the world. That's all right. It's very interesting. I just see that as an opportunity and kind of an obligation even to kind of commemorate what goes on. I am a futurist, and the passage of time is relentless. And you're people who are working in a line of work which is, it's a field I understand very well because I've studied cyberculture and sort of computer development for many years. I know a lot of people in your industry. I'm kind of a gray-haired guy. I must be the oldest guy in this room. I'm guessing. I may be the oldest guy in this room by 20 years, which is an odd business. But it's because I've studied this for a long time that I've kind of seen it happen. And one of the things about AR that I find really intriguing is that in a lot of ways it's the same old story, but without the overhead of the old computer business. It's not from Silicon Valley. It's not the old VC scene. It doesn't have anything to do with the American federal government. Nobody talks about the information superhighway. It's globalized, it's localized. It's a creature of the 20 teens. It's really a young, new industry that's growing up within a modern set of industrial, post-industrial circumstances. So that really makes it, it's just the digital native of our own times. And then there are some disadvantages to that. You're growing up in a depression instead of a dot-com boom, but there are some advantages to it as well. You don't have to pay to advertise yourself, et cetera, et cetera. It's just unique, new, different. So, my feeling is you're going to blow out in all directions. I mean, your company won't, but your industry will, because there are too many applications of what you're doing, and there's just too many moving parts, and there are too many people who are eager to apply it in a lot of different areas. And I'm just going to read some of those to you, because I think these are going to, as somebody who speculates about tech development, this is sort of where I think it's going. Okay, so you got Layar, Wikitude, Mataio, Tanchadot, Argon, Crosshair, Google Goggles, Kawaba, Libre Geosocial, Mixar, Object, Point and Find, Scan Search, etc., etc. Okay, the thing that interests me about that is that every one of these companies or startups does not approach it in the same way. They're all like cutting augmented reality at a different angle. Some of them are for-profit companies, some of them are startups, some of them are like emphasize social networking, some of them are sort of creatures of the handset, some of them belong to search engines. It's not, it's really interesting. It's like a Cambrian explosion of little enterprises that are trying to do things in a different way. There's GPS, WPS, MTC, accelerometers, gyroscopes is the hardware that's associated with the thing. Not everybody uses one of these things. There are guys who do augmented reality who don't even have vision, like Tuzla. Tuzla's like this Russian sonic augmented reality thing. Just sort of walk around with earphones. You could be blind and do, Tuzla sonic augmented reality. The way people talk to one another in augmented reality is really interesting to me. I thought somebody in AR was going to write an AR book. I realized that's not going to happen. I'm the only guy old-fashioned enough to write a book about AR. Anybody who's in AR is either a blogger, they're an activist, they're a social network person, they're doing videos, they're twittering. None of them write books. I'm the last fossil who can put ink on paper about the industry. I really don't think anybody else is likely to do it. They'd write white papers. They would not waste time with books. They would want to be, closer to the fire. Projection mapping, very keen on that. The headset scene, I don't believe in it. Everybody does. So you got to say something about it. Internet AR, sort of event AR, very interesting. Geolocative, just imitation of real 3D spaces is super interesting. AR as an app and an add-on, as an interface for other things going on. I think that's very important. AR is a feature rather than an industry. Robots, transmedia apps, advertisements, QR codes, gaming, aspects of gaming, little pieces of that. AR outside the handset. I'm a guy who does a lot of electronic art curation. I've been known to hang out with people to be a curator at electronic art events, so I'm super interested in art applications of this. I take that stuff really seriously because watching technical development which is not driven by profit, military power, or politics really allows people to explore spaces that you would not see revealed otherwise. AR art, software art, generative art, social intervention with AR, AR in the city, urban informatics, navigation, tourist apps, AR for foreigners in cities, sharing locative photos, and so forth. And then, having been very interested in the birth of your industry, I'm very interested in its death. I think the day will come when people don't use the term. It will go out of use in the way that the information superhighway went out of use. People scarcely talk about the internet anymore. It's the net, it's the web, it's going to be the cloud. Under the cloud it might be ubiquity, or just augmentation, or just the city, or just the place, or whatever.
Life.
And you're going to, whatever, life. It could just be life. I mean, the sort of artificial distinction we draw between virtual and actual experiences may very well go away. And you guys are pretty well placed to be the kind of portal between those two. And if you look at how are you going to combine these things seamlessly, AR is one of the most promising ways in which to do it, but it might very well just vanish into so many other aspects of life that it would become meaningless. So we're really in it's kind of a temporary event. But it's there's something to me that's sort of majestic and beautiful about it. And I'm not close to the comedy of it, but seen from a kind of, and I know that it's done by real people, and I wouldn't say that I'm an idealist about it, because I'm a novelist. People are people, and they behave in human ways, and we all have feet of clay and interesting human failings, and that's sort of part of our great comedy. I don't know, a tragedy to those who feel, a comedy to those who think. But nevertheless, it's something going on that I really want people 50 years from now, 100 years from now. I don't want it to be lost. know, I don't want it to be sort of lost to the time stream. I really want to document it and kind of commemorate it and like move it into a, you know, a literary space where, you know, many years from now, somebody with a sense of idle curiosity will be able to say, oh, well, this must be what it was like. And so many of the things that we value most, that we appreciate most, that we care most about, are Facebook friends. You know, our tweets, the gaming experience we had, our email romance. Those things will vanish. They will vanish utterly. There will not be a bit, an atom, or a trace. There are clouds dying now. And I just put up a post on my weblog about dead clouds. People don't even believe in clouds yet. There are 4 extinct clouds. There's going to be a lot of dead AR app platforms. There's already one couple, you know, when people start them up, it's like nobody's wandering in. It's just sort of empty, segmented spaces. They'll die like video games died. They'll go away like silent movies died. Their formatting will go away like, you know, like VHS tape. And this is not the first time it's happened, but you work in that area. And unless strenuous efforts are made to preserve what you're doing right now, nobody in 25 years will have a clue. Really. And no, that's not your problem. It's not a job for you, but it is a cultural problem. It's an academic problem. It's a literary problem. It's my problem. You know, I'm going to take that one on board for you. You know, that's why I'm among you. I know I don't invest in your industry. I'm not a designer. I doubt that I'll ever make an AR app. You know, projection mapping. I'm not going to project any mapping. You know, sonic stuff. I mean, I use your services. You know, I'm happy that you're financing my effort to go teach this thing. Thank you very much. You know, some of your heavies will be coming over if you're interested as a Layar, you know, employee, participant, whatever you call yourself, and you want to watch what's going on. I'm going to try to make it as open to you as we can manage. You know, without your participation, the class won't work, and without your participation, the class would not have happened in the first place. But I don't know. You know, in the long term, it's going to be a wild ride for you guys. And in the longer term, what you did has real cultural meaning. You know? It really does matter to people. It's a valuable story. I mean, right now it's chaos, but someday it'll be a saga. Really, you know, someday it'll be a saga, and you can see that happen. I mean, early computing was like that. If you hung out with people who were starting up the internet, the Lynn Kleinrocks of the world, they were, you know, geekier than you, lots geekier than you. I mean, you guys are like well-dressed together, humanistically, you know, European sophisticates compared to guys who are working for Bolt, Beranek, and Newman and trying to like assemble the early internet. But you can go read like Where Wizards Stay Up Late, which is sort of a journalist summary of the early days of the internet, and you can see that all these guys ended up winning the National Medal of Technology. They're scholars at Google, you know. They don't have the Nobel, but they got some kind of gold ribbon at the end of that particular carousel. You know, and they actually grew up by that. I mean, if you go hang out with Lynn Kleinrock now, he really is this kind of guru-like figure. You know, there's something. He kind of grew into the. I don't know. Society turned him into something that he wasn't. You know, he really had a life and an adventure, and what he did really mattered to people, and that was kind of a victory condition for him. So, you know, good luck with that. I'm here to promise you that it matters. Win, lose, or draw. It's going to make a difference. So, thank you for listening.
Thank you.